A lonely stretch of road winds through northern Ohio. The trees close in, their branches forming a tunnel of shadow. Faded yellow lines flicker under headlights that shouldn't be here this late. On the roadside, rotting houses, boarded windows, no trespassing signs nailed into crooked posts. The car slows. The driver kills the engine. For a moment, there's only the chirp of insects. Then silence. From somewhere deep in the woods, a low hum starts up. Some say it's the wind through hollow pipes. Others swear it's something mechanical, something still running. The locals called this place Helltown. Before the fences went up, before the name Helltown ever caught on, it was just another dot on the Ohio map. Boston Township, quiet farmland, narrow roads that curved through the valley like veins, a place people passed through without a second thought. It sat in that strange pocket between two aging cities, close enough to hear the hum of industry, far enough to still smell the earth after it rained. Families had been there for generations. It wasn't rich, it wasn't poor, it just was. But by the early 1970s, something was changing. The world outside was loud. Protests, pollution, and headlines about a river that had caught fire. The Cuyahoga Valley felt it too, even if no one there could explain how. Factories were slowing down, smoke hung heavier. The hills grew quieter every year. People could feel the end of an era coming. They just didn't know whose. Around that time, a new kind of conversation started to drift into small town papers and kitchen radios. Words like preservation, restoration, federal funding. Big ideas from Washington about protecting the land and cleaning up the damage of modern life. No one thought those words would reach this far. Not here. Not to a place this ordinary. But in the years that followed, the valley began to change in ways no one expected. Strange rumors, outsiders asking questions, signs going up where no signs had been before. Something was coming to Boston Township, and whatever it was, it wouldn't leave things the same. Officially, it began as a good thing. In 1974, President Gerald Ford signed a bill establishing the Cuyahoga Valley National Recreation Area, one of several new park projects meant to restore polluted regions and protect natural land from urban sprawl. The Cuyahoga River, infamous for having caught fire multiple times, became the symbol of that mission. The federal government promised jobs, tourism, and environmental renewal. The plan was simple: reclaim land, remove unsafe structures, and return the valley to nature. The National Park Service called it a necessary step toward preservation. But preservation came with a cost. To create this protected land, the government had to remove those who already lived there. Entire neighborhoods, churches, stores, and family farms fell within the newly drawn park boundary. Through eminent domain, the ability to buy or seize private land for federal use, the Park Service bought out more than 500 properties. Most were homes, many still occupied. Residents were told it was temporary, just until the area could be redeveloped. But as months passed, demolition crews began marking homes with red X's. Some were bulldozed immediately, others were left standing, hollow and boarded up, waiting for a future that never came. That's when people started calling it the town that died overnight, or more simply, Helltown. For those who lived there, it was a slow-motion disaster. Some families left quietly, others fought back, filing petitions, calling local newspapers, even chaining themselves to their porches. But it didn't matter. Once the government claimed the land, resistance was futile. The evacuation wasn't just about homes, it was about erasing a community. Mail routes ended. The school district was dissolved. The fire department closed its doors. Within a year, the valley was a patchwork of boarded houses, cracked roads, and ghostly silence. The Park Service claimed they were waiting on funding before proceeding with the next phase of development, but the money never came. Instead, fences went up. Federal no trespassing signs appeared along the roads. Park rangers began turning people away, insisting the area was unsafe. From the outside, it looked like progress had simply stopped. From the inside, it felt like the government had taken over and then abandoned the place entirely. By the late 1970s, the people were gone, but the buildings remained. Empty homes, overgrown yards, playgrounds frozen in time. The Park Service maintained that the town would be demolished and cleared for future park expansion, but the plan never moved forward. Instead, nature began to reclaim everything. Trees split pavement, vines crawled up brick chimneys, and silence settled over Boston Township like a fog. Every few years, a few more structures vanished, some by official demolition, others by fire or decay. Then came the fences. Mile after mile of chain-link barriers cutting through the woods, blocking entire roads. Government property. Do not enter. Locals who tried to explore were stopped by rangers or sheriff's deputies. No one was ever told exactly why. And that's where the unease began to grow. Because in a country built on open space and public land, why would a national park be sealed off from the public? That single question turned an abandoned valley into Helltown. What happened after the government left is where the story fractures, between official silence and local whispers. Over time, Helltown became a magnet for strange reports. Some claim it's haunted. Others believe something was hidden there, and if you ask around, the same few stories always come up. It starts with the fences. Even decades after the evacuation, much of the area remained sealed off, locked behind steel gates and government property warnings. Locals say it was more than just the Park Service. They claim they saw unmarked vehicles moving in and out after dark. Convoys of trucks without plates, headlights blacked out, cutting through the forest roads that no one else was allowed to use. Hunters reported hearing metallic clanging beneath the ground, as if there were tunnels or bunkers below. Some even said they saw flashes of light bleeding through the tree line, followed by the echo of heavy machinery. The story spread that Boston Township hadn't just been abandoned, it had been repurposed, that the fenced zones were more than just unsafe structures. They were entrances, part of a buried network used during the Cold War for experiments, storage, or something worse. And the strangest part? No one could ever find official records explaining what those restricted areas were for. Just off Stanford Road sits a small white church with a tall steeple and a graveyard that looks like something out of another century. It's one of the few structures still standing from before the evacuation. Visitors began calling it the Satanic Church. They claimed its doors bore inverted crosses, that the pews were arranged in a circle, and symbols had been carved into the floorboards. Some said that after dark, they saw candlelight flickering through the windows or hooded figures gathering in the surrounding woods. During the 1980s, when America was in the grip of satanic panic, the legend exploded. Teenagers snuck past fences to prove it for themselves, snapping grainy photos and returning with stories of mutilated animals, burned-out barns, and strange chanting in the distance. Still, the rumor stuck. Even today, that church is said to be the beating heart of Helltown's reputation, where the myths of demons, cults, and dark worship took root and refused to die. Somewhere near the southern edge of Helltown, along a road locals now call the end of the world, people began reporting something strange. Animals that didn't look quite right. Deer with hairless patches, coyotes with clouded eyes, birds lying dead in clusters, as if poisoned. The legend goes that before the evacuation, a chemical truck overturned nearby, spilling toxic waste into the soil and water supply. The government, realizing the contamination was out of control, supposedly seized the entire area to contain it. People whispered about mutant creatures in the woods, grotesque shapes that ran on all fours but weren't quite animals. Some claimed they saw figures with pale skin and glowing eyes watching from behind trees. Others said the air itself felt heavy there, like breathing near an invisible fire. There were no official statements, no cleanup reports, and no access for outsiders. The fence lines stayed up, and with every passing year, the story of the toxic zone grew darker, twisting from industrial accident into something inhuman. Even among all the stories of secrecy and government fences, some say the real reason people avoid Helltown isn't what's buried underneath. It's what still lingers on the surface. Locals talk about a presence in the valley, a feeling that never leaves you, like the air itself is watching. At the heart of it is the old Boston Township cemetery, a patch of uneven ground on the edge of the woods. Visitors claim to see a man there after dark, tall, silent, carrying a lantern that never casts light on his face. Sometimes he stands at the gate. Sometimes he's already inside, waiting among the stones. They call him the caretaker. Then there's the legend of the Black Hearse, an old unmarked vehicle said to appear on Stanford Road after sunset. It tails anyone who drives too deep into the valley, keeping just far enough behind to stay unseen. Locals say it vanishes if you stop or turn around. Headlights gone, road empty, silence absolute. Another story tells of the ghost bus, a rusted school bus hidden off the main trail, half swallowed by trees. People who visit claim it moves between trips, parked differently each time. Others say they've seen faces inside, pressed against fogged windows. And then there are the lights, the faint floating orbs that drift between the trees long after midnight. No one agrees on what they are. Some say lanterns, some say headlights, some don't say anything at all. To believers, these are the echoes of a town that refused to die quietly. The spirits of families forced to leave, children buried before they grew up, and lives uprooted without warning. The government might have cleared the land, they say, but not everyone left. 4 claims, 4 distinct origins, a hidden military presence, a church tainted by rumor and ritual, a poisoned landscape fenced away from the world, and a town that refuses to stay quiet, haunted by the ones who never left. Individually, they're local legends, but together, they turned a forgotten Ohio valley into one of America's most enduring forbidden places. The stories of Helltown spread far beyond Ohio. By the 1990s, it was showing up in ghost tours, cable specials, and early internet forums. But when journalists and researchers started digging into the claims, a different story began to take shape. One that didn't require demons, mutations, or secret bunkers, just confusion, fear, and bad timing. The so-called unmarked convoys seen at night? Park officials said they were standard maintenance vehicles, part of a cleanup effort for abandoned buildings, unstable bridges, and unsafe hiking paths. As for the underground tunnels, a few were real, but not what people thought. The area around Boston Mills sits on a network of old drainage culverts, cellars, and storm pipes built before the evacuation. When the park absorbed the land, many of those structures were sealed for safety. Rangers confirmed that restricted zones were posted because of collapsing floors, asbestos insulation, and decaying infrastructure. To a thrill seeker sneaking in after dark, those fences looked like the entrance to something hidden. In reality, they were just keeping people out of condemned buildings. Still, no one ever fully explained why some gates stayed locked decades longer than others. The infamous church with inverted crosses? That was just Gothic Revival architecture, a design choice where cross arms angled downward at the tips. Locals confirmed it had been a Methodist church, abandoned like everything else when the government cleared the town. The supposed ritual symbols inside were likely the work of vandals. In fact, police reports show teenagers frequently breaking in during the height of the 1980s satanic panic, an era when everything from rock music to Dungeons and Dragons was accused of devil worship. Sociologists point out that once a place earns a sinister reputation, it becomes a magnet for thrill seekers who want to find evil in the shadows. And in Helltown, the fear became self-fulfilling. Still, to this day, locals claim they've seen candles flickering in the graveyard at night. Whether it's teenagers, tourists, or something else, no one's ever been caught. The so-called chemical spill that inspired the mutant legends? There's no official record of any toxic accident inside the Helltown boundaries. But there was a spill, just not there. In 1985, a nearby private landfill in Summit County was flagged for illegal chemical dumping. The EPA investigated, fenced off the site, and began a quiet cleanup operation. Over time, the two locations, Boston Township and the dump site, blurred together in local storytelling. As for the mutated animals, park biologists say it's common for deer and coyotes to show signs of mange, disease, or malnutrition. Under a flashlight beam, hairless skin or cataracted eyes can look unnatural, especially when fear fills in the blanks. And the end of the world road? That wasn't a gate to a toxic wasteland. It was just where the pavement stopped, abruptly, because the bridge ahead had been removed for safety. Every haunting begins the same way, with silence, and silence is where the mind fills in the blanks. Skeptics point out that Boston Cemetery has no documented hauntings before the 1980s. The caretaker's story only surfaced after the town was evacuated, the same time thrill seekers began sneaking in at night. The black hearse? Likely a local prank. In the 1990s, police reports even mention a resident who owned a vintage hearse and admitted to scaring trespassers for fun. As for the ghost bus, Park Service records confirm its origin. It was a real school bus, abandoned by a family living out of it after their home was seized. The family moved on, the bus stayed, and legends did the rest. Those floating lights in the woods? Most are explainable. Reflections from distant highways, swamp gas, or moisture catching headlights through fog. Paranormal researchers often describe Helltown's hauntings as a projection of guilt and displacement. When a town is erased, families scattered, homes demolished, the human mind finds ways to make that loss visible again. In other words, the ghosts aren't real. The grief is. Still, those who've gone there at night insist the silence isn't natural. Maybe it's not about what's haunting the town. Maybe it's about the feeling that something shouldn't be this quiet. None of the explanations are extraordinary. No monsters, no rituals, no military secrets, no restless spirits. Just a small town caught between bureaucracy and myth. Its silence filled by imagination, and its memory kept alive through fear. And yet, Every attempt to debunk Helltown leaves one question hanging in the air. If it was just a park project, why did the government go to such lengths to keep people out? And why does the place still feel like it's waiting for something? After half a century, Helltown remains fenced off more than any parkland should be. Every explanation makes sense until it doesn't. Because the more you look at Helltown, the stranger it becomes. The question isn't just what happened there, it's why it was forgotten so completely. Over the years, 4 major theories have surfaced. Each one tries to fill in the blanks the government never addressed. The first and most grounded theory is also the simplest, branching off of the claim that Helltown was contaminated. Some believe the park project was never about recreation at all. It was an emergency response to an industrial disaster. During the 1960s and 70s, chemical manufacturing along the Cuyahoga River was barely regulated. Factories routinely dumped waste into the soil and groundwater. By 1972, the river was so polluted, it literally caught fire. That same stretch of land would later form the backbone of the new protected park zone. According to this theory, Boston Township was evacuated not for preservation, but for containment. The government needed to quietly relocate residents and secure the valley before word of widespread contamination reached the public. If true, it means Helltown wasn't built to hoid an experiment. It was the experiment. A cleanup wrapped in silence, disguised as conservation. Another camp points to the Cold War itself. The 1970s were the peak of American paranoia. MK-Ultra, nuclear shelters, and covert bioweapon tests were real government programs, all declassified decades later. Some suspect that Helltown was chosen as a test site. The area's isolation, its easy federal acquisition, and its abandoned infrastructure would have made it perfect for low-visibility research. The theory claims the government used the empty town for biological or chemical exposure studies, possibly simulating urban evacuation or civilian response to contamination. No paper trail confirms this, but multiple reports of heavy machinery, sealed buildings, and guarded perimeters after the town's abandonment line up uncomfortably well with similar Cold War operations conducted elsewhere. If that's true, Helltown wasn't an accident. It was a controlled experiment that never officially ended. The third theory shifts from physical experiments to psychological ones. Some researchers argue that the real purpose of Helltown wasn't about chemicals or radiation. It was about information control. During the Cold War, U.S. intelligence agencies studied how rumors, fear, and misinformation spread through civilian populations. If an isolated town could be transformed into a national legend through selective silence and eerie imagery, it would reveal how public perception could be manipulated without firing a single shot. The government clears a town, fences go up, locals fill in the blanks. Before long, the world believes there's a forbidden zone in Ohio, complete with cults, mutants, and secret bases. Whether by design or accident, Helltown became a self-perpetuating myth, and that may have been the entire point. And then there's the last theory, the one that pushes beyond reason. This idea connects Helltown to a much older story. The belief in Agartha, a vast subterranean world said to exist beneath the Earth's crust. According to fringe researchers, ancient cave systems in the American Midwest were once used by early civilizations, and later by secret governments, to reach those depths. Supporters point to the alleged tunnels beneath Helltown as evidence of these hidden passages. They claim the government fenced the town not to protect the surface, but to guard what lies below it. No proof exists, but it's hard to ignore how many abandoned sites, mines, and Cold War facilities across the United States share the same traits: sudden evacuation, restricted access, and stories that refuse to die. Maybe Helltown isn't unique. Maybe it's just the one place that still remembers what was buried. This theory, of course, ties directly into a future episode, one that explores the deeper legend of Agartha and whether our world has always had another one hidden beneath it. Each theory peels back another layer of Helltown's silence. Environmental disaster, Cold War secrecy, psychological warfare, subterranean secrets. Different answers, same question. Why does the government still keep people out? Maybe Helltown was never hiding anything. Maybe it's just what happens when people disappear and nature takes back what's hers. Or maybe that's the perfect cover story. For nearly 50 years, the fences have stayed up. The warning signs are replaced every few seasons. And while the National Park Service insists the area is harmless, there's something unsettling about how heavily harmless places are patrolled. The human mind doesn't like empty spaces. It fills them. It stitches together the unexplained into something it can understand. That's how legends are born. But what makes Helltown different is how much of it is still off-limits. How many decades have passed without a clear explanation for what was sealed and why. Some towns fade from memory. This one was erased on purpose. Maybe the truth is buried under the same soil the government tried to protect. Maybe it's nothing but rumor, graffiti, and fear echoing through empty houses. Or maybe, just maybe, it's the sound of something still running underground. So what really happened to Helltown? Was it contamination, conspiracy, or something deeper beneath Ohio's soil? Let me know what you believe down in the comments. And if there are other topics and mysteries you'd like me to explore in the future, I'd love to hear your suggestions. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the unknown, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel grow, and it means I can keep bringing you stories that challenge the way we see history and reality.